Hi, everyone. My name is Esme Thornton. I'm 34 years old. Yesterday morning, I woke up to 99 missed calls, all of them from my mother and my younger sister. The same two people who had texted me on my birthday telling me they needed space and that I shouldn't contact them again. My sister even hearted the message, like it was something sweet instead of something final. What they didn't realize was that I sign every check in this family. They didn't understand that the Back Bay penthouse they live in, the cars parked downstairs, the credit cards they swipe without thinking, every dollar runs through my authorization. And for the first time in 10 years, I decided to stop signing. Before I tell you what happened next, take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if stories like this genuinely resonate with you. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now let me take you back to how this all began. Growing up, I was the invisible daughter, not in some dramatic headline-worthy way. I wasn't mistreated in obvious ways. I wasn't locked away or deprived of anything essential. It was quieter than that. My mother simply overlooked me. Every time I walked into a room, her eyes searched for my younger sister Lillian first. Conversations always circled back to Lillian's plans, Lillian's feelings, Lillian's future. I learned early that my role wasn't to be celebrated. It was to solve problems, to keep things steady, to fix whatever needed fixing. When my father, Alexander Thornton, passed away 10 years ago, I was 24 and fresh out of Boston University's business program. Thornton Capital Group, the company he built from nothing, was drowning in debt. Loans were overdue, projects were stalled, investors were losing patience. My mother had no idea how to manage it. Lillian was 19 and far more interested in boutiques than balance sheets, so I stepped in. I renegotiated financing agreements, reworked contracts, took meetings no one else wanted. I worked 60-hour weeks, sometimes more, until Thornton Capital Group wasn't barely surviving anymore. It was expanding. Today, I'm the CFO. On paper, that sounds impressive. In reality, it means I transfer $8,500 into my mother's account every month. Another $3,800 to Lillian. I cover the $12,500 monthly rent for the Back Bay penthouse, the car leases, the vacations, the spa appointments, the emergency expenses that somehow appear every quarter. In 10 years, it added up to over $3 million. And not once did anyone say thank you. The only time my mother calls is when something is late. Last month, a transfer was delayed by 2 days because I was finalizing an $82 million waterfront development deal. She didn't ask how negotiations went. She didn't ask if I was exhausted. She asked why the money hadn't arrived yet. "Your sister needs it for her trip," she said. No hello, no how are you. The last time anyone in my family truly acknowledged my birthday, I was 12. Dad baked me a chocolate cake with too much frosting and wrote in crooked letters, "Happy birthday, my little CEO." That was 22 years ago. He's been gone for 10 of them. And every year since, my birthday has passed like any other Tuesday. At least, that's what I thought would happen this year. 3 weeks before my birthday, I discovered something that should have been impossible. It happened by accident. Lillian forwarded a message into our family group chat. Except, we don't have a family group chat. At least, I didn't think we did. It turns out there was another one. A private thread between my mother and Lillian, a space where I didn't exist. The forwarded message was short. "Let's discuss the shares at Saturday's meeting. Jay, wear something nice." I stared at my phone. Shares? What meeting? My thumb moved slowly across the screen as I opened the screenshots Lillian had accidentally included. There weren't just 1 or 2 messages. There were dozens, conversations I was never meant to see. Penelope, we should consider selling some company shares. Lillian, Esme won't like that. Penelope, Esme doesn't need to know yet. She just handles the paperwork. My chest tightened. Lillian, she acts like she runs everything. It's annoying. Penelope, don't worry about her. She's always been difficult. No people skills. That's why she hides behind spreadsheets. Lillian, true, lol. She wouldn't understand real business strategy anyway. Penelope, you're the one with the real instincts, sweetheart. Just like your grandmother. I set my phone down. My hands were shaking. For 10 years, I had rebuilt Thornton Capital Group from the ground up. I sacrificed weekends, relationships, any version of a normal life. I carried debt negotiations on my shoulders while everyone else slept. And to them, I was the difficult daughter who handled paperwork. But what truly broke something inside me wasn't the insults. It was the date. The meeting to discuss selling shares of my father's company, the company he trusted me to protect, was scheduled for March 15th. My birthday. They were planning to make decisions about my father's legacy on the one day that should have mattered to me, without inviting me, without even remembering why that date meant anything. That's when I started paying attention. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and 10 years of bank statements spread in front of me. Numbers don't lie. They don't soften the truth. They don't make excuses. They just add up. Monthly transfers to my mother. $8,500 times 120 months equals $1,020,000. Monthly transfers to Lillian. $3,800 times 120 months equals $456,000. Penthouse rent in Back Bay. $12,500 times 120 equals $1,500,000. Car leases, credit card balances, vacations, emergency loans that were never repaid. At least another $300,000. In 10 years, I had poured over $3 million into this family. And in return, I couldn't remember the last time my mother asked how I was doing, or the last time Lillian called just to hear my voice. Every interaction was transactional. Money in, silence out. I thought about my father. The way he used to look at me across the dinner table like I was the only person who truly understood what he was building. The late nights in high school when he let me sit beside him reviewing development plans. The quiet pride in his eyes when I graduated at the top of my class. You're the only one I trust with this, Esme. He told me weeks before the cancer took him. The company, the family. You'll take care of it all. I know you will. And I did. I kept that promise. But somewhere along the way, taking care of the family stopped meaning protection. It started meaning funding a lifestyle while they erased me from their lives. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts. There was a name I hadn't called in years. Graham Whitaker, my father's attorney. His closest friend, the man who sent a brief message every year on the anniversary of my father's death, just to check in. I always responded politely, briefly. I never understood why he kept reaching out. Now I was beginning to. I made a decision. I wouldn't confront them. Not yet. Part of me wanted to call my mother immediately, demand answers, demand an explanation. Why were they meeting without me? Why did they think I just handled paperwork? Why did they never remember my birthday? But I already knew how that conversation would go. Denial. Minimizing. You're too sensitive, Esme. No. I wanted clarity. And the clearest moment would come on March 15th, the day they planned to discuss business. The day they apparently forgot was my birthday. I would wait. I would watch. I would see exactly how they behaved when they had no reason to pretend. In the meantime, I called Graham. He answered on the second ring, almost like he'd been expecting it. Esme? His voice was steady, warm. It's been a while. I know, I said quietly. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. I've always understood. There was a pause. Are you calling about the letter? I froze. What letter? Silence stretched between us. Your father left something for you, Graham said carefully. Instructions were to give it to you when you were ready. I've been waiting 10 years for this call. My heart began to pound. Ready for what? He never explained in detail, only that you'd know. And I would know. Another pause. I think you might be ready now, he said gently. Am I wrong? I thought about the screenshots, the private group chat, the meeting scheduled on my birthday. No, I whispered. You're not wrong. I'll bring it to you, he said, but only if you ask. This has to be your choice. After we hung up, my hands were trembling again, but not from anger this time, from something that felt dangerously close to hope. March 15th arrived like any other Tuesday. I woke up at 6, made coffee, answered emails from the Prudential Tower office. The sunlight streamed into my apartment exactly the way it always did. 34 years old. At noon, I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over the family group chat, the one I was actually included in, the one that hadn't had a real conversation in weeks. I typed a single sentence. Today's my birthday. Did anyone remember? I hit send. Then I placed my phone face down on my desk. I forced myself back into work. A contract needed revisions, quarterly projections were due, numbers demanded attention. Minutes crawled by. 1 hour. 2. 3. At 3:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. My mother's name lit up the screen, and for a split second, my heart leapt. For a second, I let myself believe I had been wrong. Maybe she remembered after all. Maybe there would be a simple apology, a rushed, "Happy birthday, sweetheart." I opened the message. We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore. I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words didn't rearrange themselves into something kinder. Then another notification appeared. Lillian liked the message. My own sister had hearted our mother, telling me to disappear from their lives. On my birthday. I sat very still. The afternoon light shifted slowly across my desk. Somewhere outside, a car horn sounded. People laughed on the sidewalk below. Life moved forward, completely indifferent to the fact that 11 words had just erased me from my own family. I don't know how long I sat there. Eventually, habit took over. I opened Instagram. Lillian's account was public. She'd never felt the need to add me. Her latest story filled my screen. Champagne flutes clinking, soft pink and gold decorations, a banner in the background. I zoomed in. Happy birthday. The timestamp said it had been posted 30 minutes ago. My hands stopped shaking. They were perfectly steady now. I tapped through the stories slowly. The first clip showed the entrance to the Back Bay penthouse, the one I paid $12,500 a month to lease. Pink balloons framed the doorway. A valet parked a Mercedes at the curb. The second clip was my mother adjusting a floral centerpiece, smiling like a hostess at a corporate gala. She was wearing her pearl set, the one she only brings out when she wants to impress business partners. The third story made my stomach drop. A handwritten guest list in my mother's elegant script. I recognized every name. Ethan Caldwell from Caldwell Digital Systems, our largest tech partner. Olivia Reyes of Reyes Capital, who controlled major commercial investments across Boston. Noah Bennett, the investment director we've been courting for months. These weren't family friends. These were my professional relationships. People I had spent years building trust with, and they were standing inside a penthouse funded entirely by me at a party I wasn't invited to. The fourth story showed the cake. 3 tiers, white fondant, edible flowers cascading down the sides. The name piped in looping gold script. Lillian. I glanced at the date on my phone. March 15th. My birthday. Lillian's birthday isn't until April. My mother was throwing a birthday party for the wrong daughter, on the right daughter's actual birthday, using the right daughter's money, while telling that same daughter to never contact her again. And she had invited everyone who mattered in our professional world. I could almost hear the conversations happening in that living room. Where's the older daughter? Oh, Esme? My mother would wave her hand lightly. She's not really involved. She's difficult, not great with people. They had no idea. The person paying for the champagne, the caterers, the valet service, was sitting alone in her apartment, freshly cut off from her own family. Something shifted in me then, not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, final. At exactly 5 o'clock, I called Graham Whitaker. "Bring me the letter," I said. "I'll be there in an hour." He didn't ask questions. While I waited, I did something I had never taken the time to do before. I pulled up the company's ownership documents, not the day-to-day financial reports I managed, the structural filings, the legal architecture my father had put in place. I already knew the percentages. 60%, Esme Thornton. 20%, Penelope Thornton. 20%, Lillian Thornton. But I had never fully absorbed what that meant. As majority shareholder and CFO of Thornton Capital Group, I had signing authority over everything. Every contract, every major expense, every distribution from the corporate accounts, including the family trust. The trust that funded my mother's lifestyle. The trust that paid Lillian's credit cards. The trust that had been hemorrhaging money for a decade, while I signed off on transfers automatically, without thinking. I had always viewed it as Dad's money, family money, something I was morally obligated to manage for everyone's benefit. But legally? I was the sole signatory. Nothing moved without my approval. At 6 o'clock, Graham arrived. He looked older than I remembered, but his eyes were just as sharp. He handed me a sealed envelope. "Before you read this," he said quietly, "there's something you should know." I waited. "Your father restructured everything 6 months before he passed. He anticipated this." He chose his words carefully. "He knew Penelope would favor Lillian. He saw it long before you did." A pulse throbbed in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me?" "He made me promise not to," Graham replied gently. "He said you needed to see it for yourself. Otherwise, you'd never believe it." I looked down at the envelope in my hands. My father's handwriting was still unmistakable across the front. "For Esme, when she's ready." I broke the seal. The paper inside had yellowed slightly at the edges. His handwriting filled both pages, neat and deliberate, the same way he wrote everything, from grocery lists to partnership agreements. "My dear Esme," it began, "if you're reading this, it means what I feared has finally happened. Your mother and your sister have pushed you far enough that you've started asking questions." My vision blurred. "I'm sorry it took this long. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you better. I've watched the way Penelope looked at you since you were small. The comparisons, the subtle disappointments. It broke my heart because I knew the truth. You are the strongest person in this family, the most capable, the most loyal. But strength is not the same as being valued. And loyalty means nothing to people who only see what you can give them. I'm leaving you the company because you're the only one who will protect it. But more importantly, I'm leaving you the authority to protect yourself. The trust, the accounts, the signing power. It's all in your hands for a reason. You don't owe anyone your sacrifice, not even family. If they've hurt you enough that you're reading this, then they've already shown you who they are. Believe them. Walking away isn't betrayal. It's survival. Doing the right thing does not mean allowing people to take advantage of you. Never confuse the two. I love you more than I could ever put into words. And wherever I am proud of the woman you've become. Dad. I don't remember when I started crying. The tears came quietly, steady, not dramatic, just inevitable. My father had known. All those years ago, he saw exactly how this would unfold. And instead of confronting it head-on, he did something smarter. He built me an exit, brick by brick, structure by structure, waiting for the day I would finally need it. That day was today. And if you've ever felt invisible inside your own family, like you are only valued for what you provide, I want you to know I see you. If this story feels familiar, tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to set a boundary with someone who was supposed to love you unconditionally? I'd really like to know I'm not the only one who's had to learn that lesson the hard way. And if you're finding something meaningful here, subscribing truly does help stories like this reach the people who need them. Now, here's what happened next. I folded the letter carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. Then I looked at Graham. What are my options? He didn't hesitate. As majority shareholder and sole signatory on the Thornton Family Trust, you can freeze distributions immediately. You can restructure access. You can restrict discretionary spending. If you choose, you can cut them off entirely. He paused. But that's not what you're planning. It wasn't a question. No, I said quietly. I stood and walked toward my closet. I'm going to the party. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Are you sure that's wise? They're telling everyone I don't exist, I said evenly. That I'm difficult, that I don't understand business. I want to hear what else they're saying, and I want to see who believes it. Graham's expression shifted. I should tell you something, he said carefully. I was invited. I turned to him. Invited? Ethan Caldwell asked me to review partnership documents tonight. It clicked instantly. They don't know you report to me. A small smile touched his face. Your mother never bothered to understand the legal structure. As far as she's concerned, I'm just the company attorney. And she doesn't know you answer to me. No. Something settled into place. You'll be there, I said. I will. And Ethan Caldwell will be there, our largest partner, he confirmed. I imagined the room, my mother dismissing me, Lillian smiling, soaking in borrowed credit, business leaders nodding politely, and in that same room, two men who knew exactly who I was, exactly what I did. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to accuse. I didn't need to. The truth would do the work for me. I'll see you there, I said. I arrived at the Back Bay penthouse at 7:30. The valet took my car without a second glance. I walked up the stone pathway, past the rose bushes my mother planted last spring, funded by what she'd called my bonus. The front door was open. Music and laughter spilled onto the sidewalk. The scent of catered hors d'oeuvres drifted into the cool evening air. I didn't walk in. Not yet. Instead, I circled toward the side garden where French doors opened into the living room. The curtains were slightly parted, just enough to see inside. My mother stood in the center of the room, commanding attention, hands moving, voice animated. Guests leaned in around her, including Ethan Caldwell, who I recognized instantly from our quarterly review meetings. I stepped closer, staying just out of sight. "My older daughter," my mother was saying lightly, waving her hand as if dismissing a small inconvenience. "Esme has emotional challenges. She's very difficult to be around." My jaw tightened. "We had to create some distance for our own well-being," she continued. "It was heartbreaking, but some people just can't maintain healthy relationships." A woman near her made a sympathetic sound. "That must be hard." "It is," my mother replied, dabbing theatrically at her eye. "But you have to protect yourself." Ethan spoke up. "Doesn't she work for Thornton Capital?" A pause. My mother laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, Esme? She handles some paperwork, filing, administrative things." She gestured toward Lillian. "This one," she said warmly, "is the real strategic mind, just like her grandmother." Lillian beamed. I stood in the dark garden, listening to my mother tell my largest client that I was essentially a clerical employee in a company I owned 60% of. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. She had no idea who I was. Time to remind her. I walked through the front door like I belonged there, because I did. I was paying for it. The foyer was filled with people I recognized. Developers, investors, consultants. Some glanced at me politely. Most knew only my signature, not my face. As I moved toward the living room, conversations began to fade. I wasn't wearing a cocktail dress. I was wearing my charcoal gray board meeting suit. Impeccably tailored, sharp, intentional. My mother saw me first. The color drained from her face. Her champagne glass tilted dangerously in her hand. For 3 long seconds, she just stared. "Esme?" she managed, her voice tightening. "What are you doing here?" I stepped into the center of the room, every head turned. "I'm not contacting you, Mom," I said evenly. "I'm just here for the birthday party." Lillian pushed her way through the crowd, confusion written all over her face. "Your birthday isn't for another month." I smiled. "No, Lillian. My birthday is today, March 15th. Yours is April 20th. The room went still. Then came the whispers. I watched my mother's expression shift. Confusion, then recognition, then something dangerously close to fear. "You can't just show up here," she said sharply. "I told you we need space." "And I've respected that," I replied calmly. "No calls, no texts." I glanced around the room. "But this is my professional network too. I thought I'd stop by and say hello." More murmurs. I saw Ethan Caldwell frown, looking from me to my mother. "Wait," he said, cutting through the noise. "Esme Thornton, as in—" He turned toward my mother. "Your daughter is Esme Thornton, our CFO." My mother's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The room went very, very quiet. And it hit me. In all these years, she had never once told anyone what I actually did. Ethan stepped forward, voice measured but firm. "Mrs. Thornton, you just said she handles minor paperwork." My mother gripped her champagne glass tightly. "Well, I meant—" "Esme Thornton," Ethan continued, "is the Chief Financial Officer of Thornton Capital Group. She has signed every contract between our companies for the past decade." He looked at me briefly, then back at her. "She personally stabilized the Harbor Point waterfront redevelopment last year when the financing nearly collapsed." A ripple of gasps moved through the room. "I'm sorry. Olivia Reyes said carefully from near the bar. We were told your older daughter wasn't involved in operations. She manages money, Lillian cut in quickly. That's different. That, Ethan said flatly, is exactly what a CFO does. From the edge of the crowd, Graham Whitaker stepped forward. If I may. His tone was calm, professional. I'm here this evening to finalize partnership documents with Caldwell Digital Systems. However, I should clarify something. Every eye turned toward him. As legal counsel for Thornton Capital Group, I can confirm that Esme Thornton holds 60% of the company's shares. A pause. She is the majority owner and sole signatory on all major financial instruments. He let that settle, including the family trust. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mother's face had gone pale. That's not... It's public record, Penelope. Graham said gently but firmly. You would know that if you had reviewed the corporate filings. Lillian grabbed my mother's arm. What does that mean? She whispered urgently. What does sole signatory mean? I looked at both of them, then at the room, filled with investors, developers, executives, all now staring at me with a new understanding. It means, I said evenly, nothing moves without my approval. The whispers exploded. I watched my mother's expression transform again. Confusion giving way to calculation, calculation collapsing into panic. For years, she had built her identity as the matriarch of a powerful real estate family. Now everyone knew the truth. Esme, she said suddenly, her voice softening. Sweetheart, this is all a misunderstanding. That message you sent was very clear, I replied calmly. You asked for space. You told me not to reach out. I didn't mean it like that. And Lillian hearted it. My sister flinched. I thought... You thought what? I asked quietly. Around us, guests pretended not to stare while very obviously staring. My mother shifted tactics. Tears pooled in her eyes. It's been stressful, she said. You know how overwhelmed we've been. We weren't thinking clearly. Well, you were thinking clearly enough to throw Lillian a birthday party 5 weeks early, I said, gesturing toward the decorations. On my actual birthday. More murmurs. Someone near the back audibly gasped. That's not fair, my mother began desperately. The caterers made a scheduling mistake. The banner says, Happy birthday, Lillian, love Mom. I nodded toward the cake. The cake says Lillian. This was not a scheduling error. Ethan cleared his throat. I think I should head out, he said. He caught my eye. Esme, I'll call your office tomorrow. We need to discuss next steps. One by one, others began making polite, hurried excuses. Within minutes, the room that had been filled with laughter and champagne clinks was thinning out. I stood there and watched my mother's carefully constructed world unravel in real time. Then, I turned toward the door. Esme, wait! She grabbed my arm. You can't just leave. We need to talk. I gently removed her hand. You asked for space, I said quietly. I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. And then I walked out. I didn't look back. Let me ask you something. If you were standing where I was in that moment, what would you have done? Would you have stayed? Said more? Tried to explain yourself? Or would you have walked away like I did? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know how you would have handled it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now might be the time, because this is where everything starts to unravel. Here's what happened next. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcast, just the steady hum of the engine and the glow of streetlights reflecting off the windshield. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vengeful. I felt tired and, strangely, calm. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of water and sat at my desk. There was work to do. First, I called the bank. The Thornton Family Trust included a standard review clause. Any authorized signatory could request a temporary freeze pending evaluation. I exercised that right. "How long will the review take?" the account manager asked carefully. "As long as necessary," I replied. "Please process the hold immediately." Next, I emailed Graham. Subject line, action items. Review all financial access for Penelope and Lillian Thornton. Audit distributions over the last 12 months. Prepare documentation for a formal restructuring of trust disbursements. Nothing illegal, nothing vindictive, just boundaries. Finally, I opened my phone settings. I blocked my mother's number, then Lillian's, then the family group chat. They had asked me not to contact them. I was simply making sure I couldn't. I placed my phone on the nightstand and lay down. For the first time in years, I didn't check email before closing my eyes. I didn't wonder who needed something from me. The ceiling was dark. The apartment was still. I thought about my father's words. Walking away isn't betrayal, it's survival. I wasn't walking away from my family. I was walking away from the version of myself that allowed people to treat me like an ATM with a heartbeat. That night, for the first time in 10 years, I slept straight through. No buzzing phone, no urgent transfer, no crisis, just silence. It was the best birthday gift I'd ever given myself. I woke up at 7 to sunlight filtering through the blinds and birds somewhere outside my window. For a long moment, I just lay there. No anxiety, no dread. My body had almost forgotten what it felt like to wake up without tension. Then I remembered. My phone was still blocked. Curious, I unblocked the numbers. 99 missed calls. The counter had maxed out. 47 voicemails. I scrolled slowly through the call log. My mother, Lillian, unknown numbers, likely friends' phones once they realized they couldn't reach me. The voicemails started irritated, then anxious, then desperate. 8:47 p.m. "Esme, this is ridiculous. Call me back immediately." My mother's voice was clipped and sharp. 10:15 p.m. "The credit card isn't working. What did you do?" Lillian's voice was high and frantic. 11:30 p.m. "Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Now fix this." My mother again, confidence slipping. 2 a.m. Please call us. We need to talk." Lillian was crying. 6:15 a.m. "Esme, the bank says the trust is frozen. They won't give us details." My mother's voice cracked. "Please, sweetheart." I set the phone down. My email inbox was worse, all caps from Lillian. "You can't do this. This is family money." A longer message from my mother, shifting between anger and pleading. "I don't understand why you're punishing us. We love you. This is cruel. Please call." At the bottom of the inbox, a different name. Ethan Caldwell. "Esme, I didn't know the details of your family situation, and it's not my place. But I want you to know my trust is with you, not them. Let's meet this week to discuss moving forward. You have my full support." I read his email twice. Then I closed my laptop, made coffee, watched the morning light fill my apartment. They would survive, but they would have to do it without my silent funding. Over the next few days, reality set in. Graham called with updates. "The trust freeze halted all automatic payments," he explained. "That includes the penthouse lease." The landlord in Back Bay had received a declined payment notice. He called Penelope directly, confused. She tried to claim it was a banking error. He wasn't convinced. "He's giving her 30 days," Graham said calmly. Lillian's credit card was declined first at the spa, where she had tried to book what she called a recovery day after the party disaster. Then at her favorite restaurant, then at a gas station. Her car lease payment bounced. The dealership sent a formal notice. "They're starting to realize," Graham said quietly over the phone, "that everything they have flows through your signature." I didn't feel satisfaction hearing that. No triumph, just a strange, hollow calm. "What about the business partners?" I asked. "The ones who were there that night?" "Ethan Caldwell called this morning," Graham replied. "He wants to strengthen your partnership agreement. He says he's more confident in the company now that he knows who's actually running it." I almost laughed. Almost. "And Olivia Reyes sent flowers to your office," he continued, with a note apologizing for believing Penelope's version of events. "She's requesting a meeting to discuss expanding her investment." I let that sink in. For years, my mother had quietly told people I was insignificant. In one evening, the truth dismantled the entire illusion. "Graham," I said finally, "I don't want to ruin them. I just want to stop being used." "I know," he said gently. "Your father knew that too. That's why he structured things the way he did. You have the power to protect yourself without destroying anyone." "Then let's find something sustainable," I said. "Something fair." "I'll draft options." Fair. That was all I had ever wanted. 4 days after the party, my mother showed up at my office. My assistant's voice buzzed through the intercom, barely hiding her alarm. "Miss Thornton, there's a woman in reception. She says she's your mother. She's very upset." I closed my laptop. "I'll handle it." I walked out to the lobby myself. Penelope was standing at the reception desk, makeup smudged, her designer blouse wrinkled as if she hadn't slept properly in days. "Where is my daughter?" she was demanding. "I need to see my daughter, right now." My assistant looked visibly relieved when she saw me. "Miss Thornton." "It's fine, Rachel," I said calmly. "I've got this." My mother turned around. For a brief second, something like hope flickered across her face. "Esme, thank God. We need to talk. This has all been a terrible—" "Not here," I interrupted quietly. "This is my workplace." "Then come outside," she insisted. "Come home, please. We're family." "You told me not to contact you." "I didn't mean it." Her voice rose, echoing through the lobby. Heads turned. "You know I didn't mean it." We were stressed. Lillian was pressuring me. "Lillian pressured you to forget my birthday?" I asked softly. "She pressured you to throw her a party on my birthday?" "She pressured you to tell our partners I handle minor paperwork?" My mother's mouth opened and closed. "If you'd like to speak with me," I said evenly, "you can schedule an appointment through my assistant, like anyone else. I'm your mother." I looked at her, really looked at her. The desperation, the fear. 10 years ago, I would have rushed to fix this. I would have apologized just to restore peace. I would have moved money, signed documents, made the discomfort disappear. Not anymore. "I know you are," I said quietly, "but I'm also a person, and people deserve basic respect." I turned and walked back toward my office. She didn't follow. Lillian's world unraveled faster. I heard about it through mutual acquaintances first, then through increasingly frantic LinkedIn messages, since my personal number remained blocked. The European vacation she had booked was canceled after her card was declined at the travel agency. Friends began asking questions. Word had spread. Your sister is the CFO? But you said she just handled filing. Her boyfriend, Tyler, a personal trainer who had never held a job longer than 6 months, packed his bags once he realized the credit card lifestyle had evaporated. I thought you had family money, he reportedly said on his way out. This isn't what I signed up for. A week after the party, I received a message from Lillian on LinkedIn. Esme, I know we haven't always been close, but I'm really struggling right now. I didn't understand how everything worked. I didn't know you were so important to the company. Can we talk? I'm sorry for everything. I just need help. I read it 3 times. I didn't know you were so important. Not, I'm sorry for hurting you. Not, I'm sorry for dismissing you. Not, I'm sorry for treating you like you didn't matter. Just, I didn't realize you were important. She still didn't understand. She wasn't apologizing for the years of condescension, or the cruel comments, or the heart she placed on the message telling me to disappear. She was apologizing because the money stopped. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry the money had stopped. I started typing a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that one too. Finally, I wrote, I appreciate you reaching out. When you're ready to have a real conversation about our relationship, not about money, let me know. I never heard back, and that truth hurt more than I expected. My sister didn't miss me. She missed my wallet. 2 weeks after my birthday, I sent a formal letter. I asked Graham to deliver it in person to the Back Bay penthouse. Something this important didn't belong in an email. It read, Dear Mom and Lillian, I am not cutting you off, but I am no longer participating in a relationship that functions only when I give and you take. If you want to be part of my life, I am open to that. But it must be built on mutual respect, not on financial dependency. Effective immediately, the Thornton Family Trust will be restructured. You will each receive a fixed monthly allowance, $3,200 for Mom, $1,700 for Lillian. This amount is sufficient for a comfortable, modest lifestyle. It is not designed to fund luxury. The allowance is not conditional on our relationship. You will receive it whether we speak or not. However, it is also non-negotiable. This is what the trust can sustain without depleting its principal. If you want more, you will need to earn it. Lillian, you are 29. It's time to build your own career. Mom, this allowance will cover a smaller apartment and essential living expenses. The penthouse lease will not be renewed. I understand this is not what you hoped to hear, but I have spent 10 years giving everything I had to a family that treated me as if I were invisible. That ends now. I love you both. But love does not mean accepting disrespect, and it does not mean financing people who only value me in dollar amounts. If you want to talk, truly talk about us, my door is open, but I will not reach out first. You asked for space. I am giving it to you. The next move is yours. Esme Graham later told me my mother cried when she read it. Lillian threw the letter across the room. Neither of them called, but the checks went out on the 1st of the month. That felt right. It's been 3 months since my 34th birthday. My mother now lives in a 2-bedroom apartment downtown, smaller than she's used to, but clean, manageable. Lillian got a job, entry-level marketing at a mid-sized firm. I'm told she complains constantly, but she shows up every day. That's something. We haven't really spoken. A few awkward texts, a holiday card from my mother that arrived at Easter but wished me a happy Valentine's Day. She got the date wrong, but at least she tried. I don't know if we'll ever have the kind of relationship where they call just to hear my voice, where my birthday is remembered without prompting. And I've made peace with that. For 34 years, I believed that if I just gave more, worked harder, proved my usefulness, they would finally see me, finally love me the way I needed to be loved. My father understood something I didn't. Some people will never see you, no matter how brightly you shine. And if you stay in that darkness long enough, it starts to dim you. Walking away wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It was permission. Permission to stop shrinking myself. Permission to stop apologizing for taking up space. Permission to finally put my own oxygen mask on first. Last week, I celebrated my half-birthday. Just me, a slice of cake, a glass of wine on my balcony overlooking the city lights. No calls, no flowers. And I wasn't sad, because for the first time in my life, I understood that my worth isn't measured by who remembers me. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this story, it's this. Being the strong one doesn't mean being the silent one. For years, I thought love meant endurance. I thought loyalty meant sacrifice. I believed that if I just kept giving, more time, more money, more understanding, eventually I would be seen. Eventually I would be chosen. But love that only shows up when you're useful isn't love. It's convenience. And the hardest lesson I had to learn was that protecting your peace is not selfish. It's necessary. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you clear. And walking away from a dynamic that diminishes you isn't betrayal. It's self-respect. You can love your family and still refuse to be mistreated. You can care deeply and still say, this stops here. And sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever do is sign your own name. Not on a check, not on a contract, but on a decision to finally choose yourself. If this story resonated with you, tell me, have you ever had to set a boundary with someone you love? What happened when you did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear tonight. And if you want more stories about strength, boundaries, and reclaiming your worth, make sure you're subscribed. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one.